Hello everyone, welcome to the How To series, and for this particular series it is really about how to write essays in social studies, but specifically is how to write better essays in social studies. So before we even start writing, we need to know the format of the writing, and I'm very sure a lot of you because of English as well as your different languages, you would already know how to use the Peel method in writing an essay. Okay, so Peel stands for point, examples, evidence or elaboration of it, as well as the link. It is the same in social studies, but it's just that we sort of want to simplify it, and we actually structure our essay writing into a what, how, and why. But it actually means the same, where if you look very carefully, the what is actually just the point, the how is actually the examples and evidence, and the why is actually just the link. And if you look at the right hand column, specifically, you can also use it for your science, where it is actually claim, evidence, reasons, as well as conclusion. So what I'm trying to say is that in terms of formatting, it is something that is not different. It is not difficult because you have been exposed to it. So writing an essay in social studies is about the same as writing an essay in either English as well as mother tongue languages, or even in science. But the only difference is this: a lot of students usually cannot hit the highest level of essay writing is because they are unable to link or to explain really well. So hopefully in this particular video we can unpack that, and we can help you in uncovering how to write better essays. Now do take a look at notes 1A. Now, Notes 1A is actually unpacking the entire social studies syllabus, as well as paper requirement and assessment. Do refer to page 2 and 3 of Notes 1A. So what is next is actually to look at the marking convention. Now, LOMS is actually levels of response marking, right? So for your essay, which is the 8 marks essay, it is actually 4 levels, right? And if you can look at level 1 is a general description, and a general description is basically not answering the question. So that means you can write on anything specifically, but it doesn't answer the question. So at least you sort of will get between that 1 to 2 marks. Okay. Now level 2, when we say about describing, describing is actually just examples. It is not really answering the question. Okay, you're just giving examples, as many examples, but you are not using the examples to actually explain or answer the question. All right, now let's take a look at level 3. Now, what is the meaning of explanation? Explanation is using the examples to answer the question, and this is the one that we want to hit. We want to at least get a level 3 5 to 6 marks, or a level 3 6 to 7 marks. Okay, because most of the time when you are doing an essay question in the national exam, you actually have very little time. It's about 15 to 20 minutes actually, and we want to hit the 7 marks, and 7 out of 8 marks is quite a decent grade. Now level 4 itself is where you weigh the factor that is most important, and in the later part of the video I'll be teaching you how to answer such questions. So what is answering the question? Okay, now before you even answer the question, you need content, and you will need to unpack the question before even writing the essay. So specifically for this topic, the content comes from a few parts: SLS, textbook, as well as your notes. Now let us refer to 1C of your notes. And as a recap, when we look at the 4 roles of government, all right, remember we talk about security, we talk about how the government needs to provide justice in terms of ensuring that there are laws or legislation. We also talked about how the government needs to protect or safeguard the interests of the citizens. But what are the interests of citizens? What is it that the citizens want? Maybe they want education, maybe they want a better environment to stay in. So these are things that the government needs to do, as well as provide goods and services. So for example, a good telecommunication is an example of goods and services. Transport is an example of goods and services. So for the 4 roles of the government, okay, remember security, justice, interests of citizens, and providing goods and services. So as mentioned, we have already done this part of notes. If you have not finished it, do it on your own. The answers are all from SLS. At the same time, for rules of government, you can refer to the textbook, pages 69 to 81, and you can see that in these pages, there is the big headers, okay, maintaining internal order and external order. You can also see ensuring justice. You can also see providing goods and services for the public. So before any test or before any exam, do make sure you refer back specifically to certain pages of your textbook. We have also learned from the last lesson on 4 features of good government or good governance. We talk about having good leadership. We talk about anticipate change and staying relevant. I think some of you were asking what is providing a stake for everyone. We have also looked at what is practicing meritocracy. All right, what is merit? So these are content that you will need. And again, refer back to your notes, 1C. And you can pick some of the comments made from your friends in our SLS responses. Okay, so please do this on your own. Now, for ideas shaping governance or features of good governance, you can refer to the textbook, page 57 to 66. You can see all the different factors there: good leadership, anticipate change, and staying relevant, providing a stake for everyone, practicing meritocracy. So now that you would already know that you would need some content in order for you to answer your essay questions, we need now to unpack the question. Please refer to notes 1C, page 12. Okay, so let's unpack the question. So when we talk about extracts, right? Extracts are basically just clues or hints. They are examples used in the extracts. Okay, so for example, if you look carefully at extract 2, it is really about external security. Okay, it talks about diplomatic relations. If you recall, maintaining external security is not just the SAF or MINDEF, but it is also to build diplomatic relations with other countries. Okay, but there is no specific example here. However, when you look at extract 3, they did give you a specific example, which is the CPF, right? So you can use the example here in your essay. However, you need to elaborate because with no elaboration, it is considered as lifting, and lifting will not be given any marks. Now, moving on, the most important part is actually looking at how would maintaining external security and how would safeguarding the interests of the citizens contribute to the stability in Singapore. I think that is the one that you need to explain and explain it clearly. However, there's another dimension to this question, and if you look at the one that is underlined in green, in the conclusion, then you need to weigh which one do you think is important, external security versus safeguarding the interest of citizens? Which do you think plays a bigger role in contributing to the stability in Singapore? So there are two dimensions to the question, but the most important one is the one in red. You must explain how external security as well as safeguarding the interests of citizens contribute to the stability in Singapore. So let's unpack what is stability in Singapore. Stability means peace, no war, standard of living is good, people's lives are protected, they can continue living as per normal. So how do you go about answering the question? Okay, there are a few ways of doing this, and if you look at the question that I highlighted, do you think that maintaining external security is more important? And I'm very sure you have heard your teachers say, answer the question, right? So do you straight away answer the question? That means you can take a position or take a stand. I think like your language essay, be it English or mother tongue, you straight away, yes, I agree, or yes, I disagree, that external security is more important. Or do you explain what is external security and safeguarding the interests of citizens as factors first? Actually, there's no right and wrong answer. Honestly, I think that method number 2, which is explaining the factors first, is more important because of how the LOMs or how the marking is. They do give you marks for explaining the factor first, and usually we weigh or we answer the question at the end as part of conclusion. All right, so there's no hard and fast rules, but method number 2, which is explaining the given factor, is more easier to score the marks. And once you know how to unpack that and unpack what is stability, it'll be easier for you to answer the question. So for example, going back to extract 2, what is maintaining external security? Even though it is in the extract is really about diplomatic relations. What if I cannot remember diplomatic relations, but I remember about SAF, I remember about Navy. You can write that as the example. So let's see. Let's recap what is maintaining internal and external security. It is really about working with different agencies and to deter, enemies from attacking Singapore. And you have MINDEF, you have all these groups of external defense, and of course our Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well. So what is or how can maintaining external security contribute to the stability in Singapore? Okay, so Singapore maintains its external security by having a strong defense system. So this what, if you remember what is basically just a description, a factor, a point. So what is the point? The point is maintaining external security. So you just basically give a definition. So this is just basically a definition of sorts. Okay, and it is important for you to give the correct definition. based on the content that you know. Now, how does maintaining external security look like? What are the examples? So when we say about examples specifically, we are looking at very clear, very defined examples. So if you just write, okay, an example of maintaining external security is SAF Army, and then you just put a full stop there, you will not get the high marks. You need to make sure that you elaborate. That means you tell me, for example, the Army or the SAF keeps Singapore safe because of they are well trained, because SAF possesses the best weapons and the technology. So you need to, because this is about examples, right? So we are looking at description. We are looking at description, which is very important when you want to score the highest marks. Because remember, we said that if you are able to do the what and the how well, how many marks do you get? You already get 5 marks. Okay, now what is then the why? When you have an army that is very prepared, very well trained, and perhaps have the best weapons to deal with aggressors, how does it lead to the stability in Singapore? Okay, so it enables Singapore to remain safe. Why? Because with all this security, it allows the country, for example, to function better or function properly. Okay, and when you are able to function properly, there is economy prosperity. Foreign companies will actually feel safe when they are investing in Singapore. Okay, and how does it lead to the stability? Because Singapore remains safe, there are positive outcomes such as jobs and economic growth. I think that is very, very important. So you have to link it up that when the SAF, for example, is doing their job, it creates peace, it creates safety, and when there is safety, there is prosperity, there is jobs because people want to invest, and of course economic growth that will contribute to the stability in Singapore. So it's actually very common sense. As long as you are able to actually give the examples and you are able to make that link, I think that is the most important. So same thing when we talk about safeguarding the interests of citizens, okay? Remember I said that, oh, it's about CPF, but what if, let's say, for example, I cannot remember anything about CPF, or I don't know anything about CPF, but I do remember other things about safeguarding the interest of citizens, because the whole idea about safeguarding the interest of citizens is actually having laws, okay, to make sure that each citizen is actually, the whole idea is they are protected. Okay, that means they cannot be bullied by other people or taking advantage of. So I, for example, may not know what is CPF. The example is so distant, but I do know, and I've watched the videos on SLS that talks about for example, workers' rights, where workers are protected by law in the event that they get abused by their employers. Okay, that means they're not given, for example, time off, or they're not given medical leave, they're not even given their pay on time. So can I use that as the example? Of course you can. All right, because extracts are just hints. If a student cannot remember any other thing and there is the example from the extract, you can use it. Alright, so let's take a look at what is safeguarding the interest of citizens. Okay, go back to the extract. Remember, the extract has an example, which is the CPF board. So always start with a definition. Okay, so when I say about definition, is really about this. Okay, safeguarding the interests of citizens is really just the government using laws to make sure that citizens' needs or interests are really taken care of. Okay, if you do know how and why, for example, CPF safeguard the interest of the citizens because it does give you mandatory savings. That means by law you need to contribute to CPF, and CPF is good because it allows everyone to save, and if their lives are taken care of when they retire, it contributes to the stability in Singapore. But what if I want to use another example? And the example that I know is specifically like what was mentioned, the Work Right Initiative, right? So it is fine. Okay, you can use examples that are different from the extracts, and specifically the Work Right Initiative is a way to safeguard the interests of citizens because it creates an awareness among especially low-wage workers, and it allows for retirement security, which is really important because some of these low-wage workers are not knowledgeable in maintaining their rights or even asking for their rights. So how is it when the government safeguards the interests of the citizens? How does it create stability? Because one, it builds trust and confidence, and when there is trust and confidence that people have in the government, then obviously there is support. And when there is support, it creates a stable and peaceful society. So this is where, if you write 2 paragraphs, you'll be getting that 6 to 7 marks, okay? Or, if it's not explained as well, it is a 5 to 6 marks. And we want to aim definitely 7 marks for 2 paragraphs, okay? So again, remind yourself, explaining requires answering the question, and how would safeguarding the interests of citizens ensure stability? The why is always important. So now we are at the last paragraph of this particular essay. All right, we talked about how we need to weigh. So if you go back to the marking scheme or the level of response marking, LOMS marking itself, then you can see that we have already hit at least 7 marks if we have explained the 2 factors. All right, so now is how do you actually get that 1 mark, that weighing which factor is most important? And when we do relative importance or weighing, you can do it a few ways actually, all right? But before you do it, ask yourself this question. So look at number 1, which factor is more important and has a bigger impact? So do you think that, for example, external security or without external security, can the government maintain the interests of its citizens? Okay, can the government, for example, protect the employment rights of its citizen? Okay, or you can always think, without external security, can there be stability? Okay, the other way that you weigh the relative importance is, can it be both factors working together? That means it's a complementing factor, maintaining external security as well as safeguarding the interests of the citizens. Both factors are important in contributing to the stability in Singapore. So when you do that last paragraph, that conclusion paragraph, think of this particular questions, and then it will guide you in writing the conclusion. So this is a sample conclusion. I agree that maintaining external security is more important because if a country is unable to defend themselves and is at war, the government cannot do anything. All right, my explanation is basically this. A country must be peaceful and stable to allow the government to protect its citizens' interests. So that is how I would actually write my conclusion and argue my way and weigh it. But of course, you must remember that at the end of the day, this particular paragraph is only 1 mark. So you need to weigh and you need to make sure that you have sufficient time in order to do the entire social studies paper. Okay, do not waste your time doing this, and you must make sure that you explain the factors well, because without explaining the factors well, even though you write a very killer conclusion, you will still not get the marks. So hopefully you have understood the ways to write a good social studies essay question, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.